Hello there, welcome back to the channel and back to another What If. This is a speculative episode and shouldn't be taken seriously. It's just for fun. And we are going to speculate today on a what if scenario. What if it wasn't the USS Voyager that was dragged to the Delta Quadrant? As of recording this is only my second one of these that I've done. If you missed the first one, yeah, I'll try and remember to link it, or hopefully there's a playlist. But this one, we're going to look at a dark version of what might have happened, what might have been. We saw a little bit of this in the Voyager series, which was a revisionist version of history. But taking that into consideration, what would have happened if genuinely the ISS Voyager, under the command of Captain Catherine Janeway, had arrived in the Delta Quadrant? Basically, the mirror universe version of all these events. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below on what you think would happen if a Terran warship ended up stuck in the Delta Quadrant. Okay, so for starters, for whatever reason, if you're not familiar with the Mirror Universe, the Mirror Universe is a dark comedy, effectively, of the Prime Universe. A mirror, if you will, of the things that are happening in this timeline, which we all know and love, with the Happy Federation. But actually, instead of going forth and creating a united federation of planets, the Terrans went forth and conquered and destroyed and built the Terran Empire. Now, we do know from recent events that the ISS Voyager A exists, at least in one version of the Mirror Universe. It's hard to say, in my opinion, if that is the same Mirror Universe that Captain Sisko visited and Captain Kirk visited. I don't think it is. I think it is the sometimes known as Dark Mirror Universe, or the Darkverse, but not really relevant to this. The point is, if the ISS Voyager A existed, then the ISS Voyager existed. And the Voyager A was under the command of Janeway and Chakotay, just like the original ISS Voyager. So let's assume that the ISS Voyager arrived in the Delta Quadrant. Now, first things first, I don't believe the Maquis in the same way would exist in the Mirror Universe. The Maquis as an institution did sort of exist in the Mirror Universe's prime timeline, which was led by their version of Sisko. It was known as the Terran Rebellion, but effectively it was the Maquis. But they were freedom fighters for the Terran people, not terrorists in the same way that the Maquis was viewed by the Federation. So I don't necessarily think you're going to end up with Chakotay's ship, a Maquis raider, stuck there. So we're going to disregard that particular thing, and for whatever reason the ISS Voyager went into the Badlands. Maybe it was looking for forward operations bases. It could have been the Terrans, who we know were at war with the Cardassians, could have simply been looking for places to launch attacks from. It's very logical to me that as the Rebellion would have been operating from the Badlands, the same as the Maquis, so the Condor-class ships and Peregrine-class vessels would have been used by them as well to attack the Cardassians in that universe. It's possible the ISS Voyager was simply going on a resupply mission, always a more heavily upgunned backup to them, because the kind of forces that could operate in the Badlands were limited because of the environment. So, for starters, that's probably the main reason the ISS Voyager was there. So, if Chakotay's ship would provide at all, it would have been a Terran warship of some kind. But let's assume just Voyager gets dragged off to the Delta Quadrant. Chakotay is the first officer, all the rest of it. What next? First of all, they are going to be pissed at the Caretaker. He is not going to have a good time with the Terrans. After he finishes experimenting on them, very likely the Terrans' first response will be to try to attack the array, to seize control of it, and either use it to get home or steal its technology for the Empire. This would fail. The Terrans, although very advanced and very capable of many things, they are no match for the Caretaker. The Nacine are far more advanced, they're far too powerful. They simply can't touch him. So, she tries to forge an alliance with the Kazon locally, who she encounters on a compo, which they go to investigate what's going on there. So, with a joint Terran Kazon force, they try to take the array, but the result is it is destroyed. This results in the Terrans blaming the Kazon blaming the Terrans, and they start fighting each other. Janeway destroys the Kazon because she would, and this is a declaration of war on them. She then has to make her way home. She knows there is another Caretaker out there. She knows there's maybe another way out of the map. Wormholes, things like that exist. So she sets off on her mission for coffee in the Delta Quadrant, just like her Prime Universe counterpart. Just like her, she's at war with the Kazon. Unlike her, the Terrans are less interested in exploration. Dangerous side quests, they are the danger. Those side quests are going to be to steal resources, to raid them. They run into the Vidians. The Vidians are the ones that get slaughtered. If the Vidians were to dare kill a member of her crew, the Vidians would suffer for it. A Terran warship version of an Intrepid-class vessel. An Intrepid-class ship is already powerful. Now we know what the Mirror Universe version of an Intrepid-class vessel is generally depicted as. It's generally shown as being like the warship Voyager we saw in, again, that revisionist history. So we're going to assume that's probably the kind of ship we're dealing with. This is a massively upgunned version, equipped with heavy phaser cannons, multiple phaser strips, photon, quantum torpedoes. She's probably got a much bigger arsenal of tricobalt devices that she didn't waste destroying the Caretaker's array. She may have used them on the Kazon, but likely they've got more. Her ship will have fighters on board it as well as shuttles for support. So she's in a much more capable combat situation. The downside is Terran warships are not built for the kind of longevity missions that Starfleet vessels are of the Prime timeline. They're not vessels of exploration, so they lack a lot of those same amenities. But doesn't matter. She's going to steal whatever resources she needs. Any technology she needs, she encounters the Carriers. They don't want to trade the technology to beam her home. She'll try and steal it. She'll fail at that because that'd be just too easy. But like everything with the Terrans, they are also not to be underestimated. Her encounters with the Borg will be equally savage. The Terran version of the Borg Collective in that universe is a completely different animal to its Prime Universe counterpart. But likely, Janeway, being a competent officer, is able to deal with it. The Cooperative, she encounters them, she'll likely use it to steal and harvest technology and then probably obliterate them for being some kind of abomination. So they're gone. Neelix and Kes are more likely abducted. Neelix in this universe could even be a pirate, not a trader. They're more likely abducted and forced to help them find their way back. It's more than likely Seska, if she's aboard the ship, is a prisoner, not a spy. I highly doubt any non-Terran would have been trusted of any description, Bajoran or Cardassian. It would really be irrelevant. The Terrans are not exactly known for their trusting of the alien. Xenophobia runs very rampant within their culture. All the usual encounters would take place. Janeway would encounter many of the same things in this universe that she would encounter in Prime Universe. The difference being, when the Nasari tried to turn Harry Kim into one of them, they would have regretted it because their planet would have been bombarded from orbit. When the Malon were encountered and they were dumping toxic waste, Janeway would have made the deal and gone back and just not cared about the aliens living in the dark. So that would have just continued. It would have also meant that they didn't make an enemy of the Malon, most likely. It would have been dodging Borg, penetrating swarm space, probably obliterating that entire swarm fleet, never mind just disabling it, and more than likely ripping off any technology that they could find. If the Equinox was in the Delta Quadrant, and this is a big if the ISS Equinox was also there and they encountered it, and it made this improvement to its propulsion system, I can see Janeway pragmatically still thinking this was a dumb idea. She might actually still turn Ransom over, simply because he did something stupid that was detrimental to the Empire. Also, he would be a rival. Terrans aren't big on rivalry. But even forgetting that part of it, even if two Terran ships are better than one Terran ship, she might think, well, I'll take the ship, but I'm not... These idiots, they started a fight with something that's not going to be helpful to us. It's not productive. She's more of a pragmatist, this Janeway. We saw that when we saw her aboard the ISS Voyager A. So she's going to dismiss this idea about using those aliens for an improved propulsion, but perhaps there's other adaptations they can make and modifications to the propulsion system based on that system, which might make the ships a little faster. Once 7 of 9 would likely be liberated from the collective, which we're going to assume is probably something that still happened, although I would imagine the circumstances around that are going to be a little different. It was more likely Janeway would forge an alliance with Species 8472 and then play both sides against each other. She would liberate 7 probably through other means, probably through her being damaged and trying to use her to gather information on the collective. But once she was severed, she became a useful tool for the Terrans. They would likely use any technology they could of Borg origin that Seven understood to implement aboard Voyager. They wouldn't just build the Delta Flyer, they'd use some of those Borg adaptations to make Voyager more powerful, Voyager faster. So Seven would become an asset, just like anything, for the Terrans to use to achieve their ultimate goal, which would be getting back to the Terran Empire. Again, a lot of the steps we're going to see are going to be similar, as often is in the Mirror Universe, in my opinion. But it's going to be a much more destructive path. The main thing that she's going to be taking away from this is information. She's going to have detailed information about Kazon ships, Kazon anatomy, the Vidian phage, Vidian to ships and technology. She would have identified interesting worlds to target, such as the Sicarians, who have advanced transporter technology, Teresians with their advanced bioengineering technology, the Malon maybe, because of some of their other combat adaptations. The Kazon might be seen as potentially being a useful ally in that region, as might the Hakonians. Because again, they have weapons the Terrans might be interested in. They could be used as puppet states to control other things. She's going to create extensive maps, identify resources that can be used, and eventually, when they do manage to use the Hirogen communication network, which probably exists in this universe as well, and they would likely deliberately shock the Hirogens, destroy a couple of their ships, and gain control of the network, they would use that to send a signal home, and the Terrans would find out about this whole wonderful new quadrant of easy prey to take on. Less advanced civilizations overflowing with resources who are constantly at each other's throats, who the Terrans would easily be able to infiltrate. So getting Voyager home would be a massive propaganda coup to the Empire. They could say, well, we got a ship conquering new territory out in the Delta Quadrant, gathering all this wonderful information for us, and the great glorious Empire is going to get our people home, and we're going to show our greatness by doing this, because Terrans being Terrans, they don't necessarily care about one another, but they're still human. There's an element of they're going to support one another. They're going to want Voyager back, if for no other reason than to gather that information. And also, again, Janeway, well-respected officer in the Terran Imperial Starfleet. So they want her back. And they want Voyager back. And most importantly, they want all that technology, Borg tech, Malon tech, whatever other technology they found, Vidian medical technologies, whatever Voyager's been able to steal along the way. They want it back. And they want to use it to make themselves stronger at home and then power project back out to the Delta Quadrant. So they can find a way to do that, they're going to do it. So the Empire is going to start scrambling, looking for wormholes, looking for new ways of communication. They're going to create the Pathfinder project, whatever they want to call it. And they're going to eventually have this work out. They're going to get Voyager home. My guess would be Voyager is going to achieve this in a similar fashion. In one of two ways, though. They're either going to use the technology the Equinox found to make some kind of modifications to their engines to let them get home, or possibly utilizing species 116 slipstream technology, which seems more likely that Voyager would take the risk on that in this universe than the USS Voyager would do. Or they're going to find a way home via the Borg in a similar fashion, which will eliminate one of the greatest threats to the Empire, but also get Voyager home. So my opinion, that one of those three scenarios is how they're getting back faster. Whether they get back in the same time, over about 7 years, the same as USS Voyager, or whether it takes a little longer, or even they do it a bit faster because they're simply willing to take any measure to get home. When they, for example, if they were to come across those two Ferengi lost in the Delta Quadrant with the Barzan wormhole, there's no way on this Earth the Terrans are wasting their time trying to get those Ferengi off that planet. At best, the Terrans might see it as, we don't like the Ferengi, and we don't want them to have all this money, and we don't want them to have a foothold here. So they would go down. They wouldn't do it, inconspicuously. They would likely go down, seize all the resources and wealth the Ferengi had got, kill the Ferengi, and then tell the population they'll be back. And then use the wormhole to get home. There'd be no messing around. If the Ferengi became aware the Terrans were there, they might try to escape and they might collapse the wormhole, which might be why the ISS Voyager isn't able to escape through it. But my guess would be as soon as they saw that wormhole, they're ignoring that planet and they're straight through it and they're straight home. So in the end, they're going to get back. They're going to get back with transphasic torpedoes, ablative armor, quantum slipstream drive, advanced Vadian medical technologies, extensive star charts of where resources and useful planets and systems are, races that are soft targets, which will be vulnerable to easy conquest, or puppet states that could be, again, could be client states of the Empire, and could be a sort of soft conquest as well, where they could use soft power to control them, economic or just the threat of force, as well as races that could potentially be identified as genuine threats, like the Malon, the Hirogen, maybe the Kazon, very likely potentially the Vidians, definitely the Borg, but they already knew about them, and hopefully that's how they got back and the Terrans destroyed them. But nonetheless, Voyager gets back and it brings back all of those toys and it completely rejuvenates the Empire. And that's my theory. Janeway's a powerful captain. I can't see her crew mutinying against her for doing something as stupid as trying to save the Ocampa over her own ship and crew, which, if she did try and do that, would be seen as going against the best interests of the Empire, and very likely Chakotay or someone else on that ship would have moved against her, because that would have been in keeping with not only Terran culture, but actual Terran law. She would not be able to act against the best interests of the Empire and her ship and get away with it. The crew would not allow it. And if she did, when she got home, she'd likely be court-martialed and found guilty, and the best option she gets there is life in prison. But again, what do you guys think? What do you think is happening to the ISS Voyager on its intrepid voyage of discovery in the Delta Quadrant? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And we are now at the end of this video. I hope you all had a great day and continue to do so. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.